Welcome back to Hidden Gems. Today I'll show you an action war film from 2009, titled Inglourious Basterds. Spoilers ahead. Watch out and take care. The film opens in 1941, on an idyllic French farm where we see a French dairy farmer, Pierre Lapidite, swinging away at some wood for his home. Suddenly, we hear a nearby motorcade approach which immediately alerts the family. Upon seeing the cars, the farmer's daughter calls out to signal to the father that the Nazis are approaching. As the motorcade arrives, we see Colonel Hans Landa, a detective of the Waffen-SS, proudly known as the Jew Hunter, make his way over to Perrier to formally greet himself. Perrier respectfully welcomes Hans to his property and invites him into his home, where he then introduces the colonel to his daughters. After making casual conversation in French and taking a glass of Lapidite's delicious milk, Landa claims to have exhausted his French and asks a switch to English, which terrifies the farmer. In English, Landa then notes that his papers state that all of the Jewish families around Lapidite's region have been accounted for, except the Dreyfuses, who have vanished completely in the past year. Landa believes that someone is hiding them very well. After rambling on a bit about the logic he uses to hunt Jews, he admits that he is required to conduct a thorough search of Lapidite's house. By dropping a subtle hint about whether or not to leave Lapidite's family alone in the future, Landa manages to coerce Lapidite and get him to confess that he is hiding the Dreyfuses under the floorboards. Lapidite points out the approximate location of the hidden Dreyfuses below their feet. Landa understands that the Dreyfuses don't speak English, and tells Lapidite that he will be switching back to French. In French, he thanks Lapidite for the milk and hospitality, then opens the door, seemingly calling out to Lapidite's family, but in actuality to his booted Wehrmacht soldiers, who come inside and take up positions. On Landa's orders, the soldiers fire their guns into the floorboards, killing the Dreyfuses immediately. However, Landa hears a noise and sees the teenage Shoshana running away into the hills. Landa considers shooting her with his pistol for a while but decides against it, yelling after her, "Au revoir, Shoshana." Now we're taken 3 years later to 1944, just before the Allied invasion of France. We see Redneck Lieutenant Aldo Rain addressing in formation his newly formed 8-man Jewish-American commando unit. He proceeds to explain to them, in drill sergeant style, that they will be dropped behind enemy lines to cause havoc to all Nazi soldiers they come across, with the goal of bringing fear into the heart of the enemy. He further explains to them that the normal standards of military conduct will not apply because the Nazis themselves have no humanity and are not deserving of any humanity in return. He mentions that he has Apache blood running through his veins and that each and every one of the men in his command owes him a debt of 100 Nazi scalps. We then cut to a scene showing us the terrible-tempered Adolf Hitler, angrily ridiculing 2 of his military command for not being able to deal with the bastards, as their activities are demoralizing to his fighting men. Hitler then interviews Private Butz, whose entire patrol was recently ambushed and killed by the bastards, and he was the only survivor. When Hitler asked Butz if they marked him like they did the other survivors, Butz shows him the swastika carved into his forehead. Butz's story is told in flashback, where we see the bastards scalping Nazis in a French forest. All of the soldiers have already been killed except for 3, Butz, Sergeant Werner Ratman, and a 3rd soldier. Rain has Ratman come forward, and threatens to have him killed if he does not disclose the whereabouts and information on a nearby Nazi patrol. Ratman is adamant that he will not provide information that could possibly harm other German soldiers. To further convince Ratman to feed them information, Rain points out Hugo Stiglitz, the group's only non-Jew, who is a notorious German soldier who managed to kill 13 Gestapo officers who were mostly majors. We then see his deeds in a flashback. Stiglitz sneaks behind and strangles a Gestapo officer with a garrote, stabs another one in the face through a pillow and chokes a 3rd one by pushing his fist into his mouth and suffocates him. He is then shown chained and dragged in chains by German soldiers into jail. He doesn't react at all when the bastards shoot the guards guarding him, instead he calmly keeps smoking his cigarette. He accepts Aldo Rain's offer to join them, and we flash back to him staring back at Ratman, who recognizes him and his reputation. Unconvinced, Rain calls for Sergeant Donny Donowitz, known to German soldiers as the Bear Jew, who also has built a terrifying reputation, and eerily approaches out from the hallway to beat Ratman to death with a baseball bat, which very much delights all of the bastards. The 2nd survivor is also shot dead in a moment of excitement. Rain then interrogates the non-English speaking Private Butz Corporal, where Willem Wicke acts as their interpreter. Utterly demoralized by the beating to death of his sergeant, Private Butz quickly provides the bastards with all they need to know, after which Rain lets Private Butz go, but not before carving a swastika into Butz's forehead with his own customized Bowie knife, as a branding, which is Lieutenant Rain's trademark. We now flash forward to June 1, 1944, where we see Shoshana has assumed the identity of Emmanuelle Mimieux. She has also become the proprietress of a cinema in downtown Paris, which is chosen by Frederick Zoller, a spotlight-hungry sniper-turned-actor whose exploits are being celebrated in the Nazi propaganda film Stolz der Nation, or Nation's Pride, as the setting for the film premiere. He is infatuated with Shoshana and convinces Joseph Goebbels to hold the premiere in her cinema. Shoshana, however, does not reciprocate Zoller's feelings but goes along with his flirtations anyways. Shoshana realizes that the presence of so many high-ranking Nazi officials and officers provides an excellent opportunity for her revenge. She resolves to burn down the cinema using the massive quantities of flammable nitrate film she holds in storage during the premiere, because nitrate film burns 3 times faster than paper, and is cheaper than buying lots of explosives. The narrator tells us that the flammability of nitrate film was such so that you couldn't even take a reel on a bus, and she and her lover/assistant Marcel re-edit the 4th reel of Stolz der Nation to plan for their vengeful night. In the meantime, the British have also learned of the Nazi leadership's plan to attend the premiere and dispatch a British officer, Lieutenant Archie Hickox, to Paris to lead Operation Kino, an attack on the cinema with the aid of the Bastards and a German double agent, an actress by the name of Brigitte von Hammersmark. Hickox meets with General Ed Fenech, played by Mike Myers, and Winston Churchill and is chosen for the mission based on his expertise of German filmmakers. Brigitte von Hammersmark arranges to meet Hickox and 2 of the Bastards, Wiki and the psychotic Hugo Stiglitz in the basement of a French tavern to arrange their plans. The only problem is that the night of the rendezvous is also the occasion of a German staff sergeant named Wilhelm celebrating the birth of his son with his soldier comrades. One of the German soldiers present strikes up a conversation with Hickox and notices that his accent is odd. An SS Major, Dieter Hellstrom, who is in the tavern as well, also notices the odd accent. Although Hickox is fluent in German, he is using his British accent. Hellstrom joins Hickox and von Hammersmark and plays one round of a guessing game with them. He offers to buy the table a round of drinks. Unfortunately, Hickox betrays himself when he gives the wrong 3-fingered order for whiskey, holding up his ring, middle, and pointer fingers instead of his thumb, pointer finger, and middle finger that Germans typically use, and the SS officer recognizes their deception. Hellstrom and Hickox quickly get into an altercation where both aim their pistols at each other under the table, ready for their inevitable fate. Both realize that there is no other way they can both escape and embrace the moment to come. Hickox, Wiki, Stiglitz, and all of the Germans, as well as the French tavern owner, subsequently kill each other in the resulting 15-second shootout. Stiglitz starts things off by telling Hellstrom to say auf Wiedersehen to his Nazi boss, resulting in a bloody mess that scours the entire bar, leaving every single person dead, including Hickox, Wiki, and Stiglitz. The only 2 left to survive are the German soldier Wilhelm and Brigitte von Hammersmark. Just then, Rain and several of the Bastards arrive, having waited outside the tavern and now alerted by the shooting, and a standoff ensues between them and Wilhelm. After Wilhelm agrees to surrender to the Bastards, Brigitte retrieves Hickox's pistol and fires 4 shots at Wilhelm, killing him, because Wilhelm had learned that Brigitte was working for the enemy. The wounded Brigitte allows herself to be captured by Rain and the Bastards. A little later, Rain angrily interrogates Brigitte at a local animal clinic where he takes her for medical treatment for her bullet wound. He pokes a finger into the wound to make her explain the debacle in the tavern, and then tell him about Operation Kino. Rain decides to continue the operation against the cinema. Rain picks 2 of his best men, Donowitz and Omar Ulmer, to make use of suicide bombs, and the 3 of them will pose as Italian filmmakers escorting Brigitte to the event. Colonel Landa, who is now an SD officer, investigates the carnage at the French pub and finds one of Brigitte von Hammersmark's shoes left behind and also an autographed napkin which Brigitte had signed for Wilhelm's son, realizing that she was there and may have been wounded. He also identifies the bodies of the 2 German-born Bastards, noting their reputation to disguise themselves as German soldiers to ambush squads. The following evening, Landa approaches Brigitte and Rain in the cinema lobby and is able to easily see through their disguises, as Rain, Donowitz, and Ulmer cannot speak fluent Italian or German. Rain is most obvious since he is speaking it with a thick southern accent. He questions Brigitte alone and makes her try on the shoe he had retrieved from the tavern. It is a perfect fit. He strangles and kills her as a traitor, and orders the arrest of Rain. As Rain is driven off in a truck, he discovers one of his men, Private Yudovich, has also been captured. Landa reveals himself to be a turncoat. While speaking with Rain and Yudovich in the privacy of a closed restaurant, he tells them that 4 major Nazi leaders must all be killed to end the terrible war immediately. They are all attending Nation's Pride, and he is prepared to let the assassination continue, but for a price. He has no intention of helping end the war, only to be tried by a Jewish tribunal for war crimes and end up facing execution. In order to help end the war, he wants to make a deal, one Rain cannot authorize, but his commanding officer can. Landa has his radio operator help Rain reach his general, where Landa states the terms of his deal. He wants full military pension and benefits under his current rank, the Congressional Medal of Honor for everyone involved in the operation, American citizenship and a home on Nantucket Island. He also reveals that he had planted Rain's explosives in Hitler's box at the cinema, indicating that there are now 3 attempts against Hitler's life. Rain is placed on the radio and his general tells him that Landa and his radio operator will drive him and Yudovich in a truck to American lines, then surrender to them, whereupon Rain will drive the truck the rest of the way to base and bring Landa and the operator to him for debriefing. Meanwhile, during the showing of Nation's Pride, Shoshana and her assistant, and lover Marcel are manning the projection booth when he tells her it is time. It is revealed in a flashback to a few days ago which shows Marcel filming a close-up of Shoshana's face making a speech in English. They then force a local camera shop owner to develop the film by threatening to kill him and his family if he doesn't, and Shoshana edits the complete film on the 4th and final film reel of the movie and leaves them in the projection booth for them to run when the time is right. Flashing back to the present, Marcel tells Shoshana that he needs to lock the auditorium and go behind the screen. As Marcel makes his way toward the auditorium, the 2 bastards that have been left behind, Donowitz and Omar Ulmer, leave their seats and exit the auditorium heading upstairs to the balcony level determined to kill Hitler by themselves. Donowitz carefully spies on the 2 guards watching the entrance to Hitler's opera box from the nearest restroom. Shoshana loads the doctored 4th reel of Nation's Pride onto the projector camera as Marcel locks the auditorium doors, sliding the safety locks at the tops and bottoms of the doors into place, and then slides a heavy iron crowbar through the door handles. He steps behind the screen where Shoshana had placed her entire stack of flammable nitrate film. Shoshana pulls a lever to switch the projector to the doctored reel on a Q symbol in the film. Watching from behind the screen, Marcel lights up a cigarette and waits. Meanwhile, Zoller, who is uncomfortable with the way he is portrayed killing Americans in the film, leaves the cinema auditorium and makes his way to the projectionist's room to flirt with Shoshana. She is deeply concerned at his intrusion and tells him to leave. However, the spurned Zoller pushes his way into the room and angrily confronts Shoshana about her treatment of him, warning her that she's no longer in a position to disrespect him. Needing to get Zoller out of the way, she asks him to lock the door, dropping a subtle hint, "We don't have much time." Soon as Zoller's back is turned to her, she pulls out a small gun from her purse and shoots him in the back, mortally wounding him. Quickly she glances into the auditorium to make sure she wasn't hurt. Suddenly, she hears Zoller groan and realizes he's still alive. In an apparent moment of pity, she turns him over, and he shoots her to death before he succumbs to his wounds. At the same time, Donowitz and Ulmer are preparing their ambush to take out the opera box guards. Donowitz disguises himself as a waiter delivering a glass of champagne. The ambush goes off without a hitch and they kill both guards and then steal their machine guns. Meanwhile, we see Hitler greatly enjoying the battle scene in the movie, where Zoller is taking out numerous American soldiers by himself. But his joy comes to a quick end when Shoshana's changes appear on screen. The large image of Shoshana's face appears on the screen, and she tells the audience that they're all going to die, and she is a Jew ready to take revenge. On her cue, Marcel flicks his cigarette into the pile of nitrate film behind the screen, igniting it. The fire bursts through the screen, causing pandemonium in the auditorium. Just then, Donowitz and Ulmer burst into Hitler's box and gun down Hitler, Goebbels' secretary and French translator Francesca Mondino and the other Nazi leaders. As the cinema is engulfed in flames, Donowitz and Ulmer fire randomly into the crowd below them, who are attempting to flee, but escape is impossible, as the auditorium doors are now locked and barred. Finally, the dynamite that Landa had planted in Hitler's box, as well as the dynamite strapped to the bastard's legs, now goes off. The cinema is destroyed in the subsequent inferno, ultimately killing everybody inside. The next day, Landa and his radio operator set off with Rain and Yudovich towards the American lines in Normandy, as part of the deal he had made with Rain's commanding officer. At the American lines, he surrenders to Rain and hands over his gun and sword. Rain orders Yudovich to handcuff Landa, and suddenly shoots the driver dead, ordering Yudovich to scalp him over Landa's outraged protest. Rain reveals that while he appreciates Landa's underhanded deal and all the perks he's secured for himself, he is incensed that on arriving in America, Landa intended to take off his SS uniform and blend into the American populace, with nobody remembering all the heinous deeds he committed as a Nazi officer. Rain plans to remedy that. The film ends with Rain carving a swastika into Landa's forehead and declaring to Yudovich that it may just be his masterpiece. Well, that was Inglourious Bastards for you. We hope you enjoyed. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this. Thanks for watching and have a great day.